All right, we are recording. And Sarah, if you could just tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. Who am I?
Who am I? The big question of life.
What do I do? I'm Sarah. I am a poet, fiction writer, etc. And yeah, what do I do? I write, I read, just any kind of art I'm generally interested in.
And you support community a lot too.
Yeah.
It's something you don't talk about a whole lot. It's just something you do. I've noticed.
Same with you as well.
I'm out loud about it sometimes. Hey, look what I do. But like I want to talk about that a little bit because I know it's definitely inspired me, and it's just like I feel like a lot of people talk community and like they talk real big about it and stuff, that's what they're about, but really they are a little bit. And then I feel like there are a lot of folks who are like literally angels in community, and they're not necessarily talking real loud about it. Sometimes they are, and that's fine, if you talk real loud about it. It's just like I want to see more folks who are walking the talk, and I feel like you're one of those people.
Oh, thank you.
And like I'm just wondering like what motivates you, and we're going to talk about your work as well, because I love your work. It's fucking phenomenal. I'm always learning from your work every time I see it. Yeah, and we have some things to talk about.
Okay. So community is where we start.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we can start anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I notice a lot in communities, a lot of people want community on their side, but they don't want to actually contribute to the other side of the community.
Right.
And for me, it's like you should be leaning toward the other way, just like supporting everyone all the time, just because like there's so many people out there that aren't being heard because everyone's trying to like claw on top of each other.
Yep.
To try to get heard. So I try to highlight those people, especially the ones that you're talking about that don't talk about it often. I want people to be supported without having to ask for it. It just shows up one day and they're like, whoa, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
That's my intention, is to just be that person who just supports people who may not even know me per se. If the art speaks to me, then I support it. I don't have to know them personally.
Right. And that I love that, because like I think a lot of us get stuck in that kind of like undergrad mentality where it's like there isn't enough for everyone, there aren't enough A's to go around, and like someone has to be better than the other, when really what it is, it's like community is community. It's every single person that's in the community, and like everyone can learn from each other. That's something that I don't know if that just comes with age or what. I don't know. I know some people who are older and they're not there yet. Maybe they'll get there. Yeah. But like, I just feel like I feel the same. Like if I get excited about someone's work, it's not something like, oh shit, like I can't promote that because it's so good and it's going to get in the way of mine or whatever. And I feel like that kind of mentality is still there and doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, definitely. Or it's like they have to know them to promote them. I think a lot of people all the time are like surprised when I'm supporting them. And a lot of people, I think Jason, when I first met Jason, he was like, you're so kind. What do you want? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't want anything. I like you. You're cool. Like, that's it. So everyone was always like, what do you want?
I have to admit, I was that way too, because, I grew up, I kind of came from like kind of a rough place, and like when people were nice, they wanted something, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
you're just waiting for it, you know, like, okay, what do you want? Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have $10. I'm sorry. But
Yeah.
like, but like I started experiencing this more in in the MFA program at Regis. Like David Hicks, he was one of those people. I'm like, why are you so nice? Like,
Yeah.
what do you want? What is this? And also other people kind of in that community too. And then as I started leaving the MFA program, I started finding more people like this, and a lot of the kind of angels who work in the background and stuff too. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what community looks like, and this is cool. I want to live here. And
Mm-hmm.
it's changed. Sometimes I still get a little like, what do you want, you know, but like
Mm-hmm.
just because it's in my body. But it's I don't know, I'm being grown by my community,
Mm-hmm.
and you're definitely part of that. Because
Oh, you're
like
part
I'm
of
like,
mine too.
you like totally made me a chapbook, and I'm just like sitting on my work for years and years and years, and like not even like, I don't know, and you're like, let's make a chapbook, and it was there, it was.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I think we came up with that sitting under a tree, right? At Regis in Denver.
That sounds about right. There are a lot of, it's a beautiful arboretum or whatever, however you say that word. Tree
I'm not even gonna
tree
try.
land.
It starts with an A, and there are a lot of trees with names.
When you read a
Arboretum?
lot, there are lots of words that I find that there are lots and lots of words I mispronounce, because people look at me
Oh
like,
yeah.
what language are you speaking? Like, I don't know. Let me write it down for you.
Yeah, and then there's like different ways of pronouncing it. If like, you know, you lean more toward French, you say, like, my boyfriend and I talk about this all the time because he was a linguistics major. He was like, I think I said ambiance, and he was like, oh, you said that like such a French way, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, isn't that how you pronounce it?
It happened to me 2 days ago. I was like ambient, and they were like, you
Mhm.
said ambient, and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, it's ambient, and I'm like, ambient sounds stupid. I'm going to
Right?
continue saying it incorrectly.
Yeah, right. Say it however I want to say it. I think also being around so many different languages all the time that I don't actually speak. Like my dad speaks French, Arabic.
Yeah.
My grandmother spoke Spanish and Arabic. Um, you just kind of start to make stuff up after a while, like how to pronounce stuff, because like they pronounce things differently. So you're like, I
Yeah.
don't know, like whatever communicates the best way. Like who cares
Right.
how
I
it's
feel
been?
that happens too. Like, I don't have a lot of languages in my background, but I have a lot of places in my background. So like
Oh, that's interesting.
Maryland, Idaho, California, Oregon, Washington, all these different places, Texas, here. And also like there's a thing that happens when you meet people you really like, and they say certain words differently, and so like somehow sometimes I collect those words, and it's almost like a collection of the people I love. And so I'll
Yeah.
say some things kind of strange because they said it's strange. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know, it's I remember in linguistics it was called something, I can't remember though.
Yeah. If Mike were here, I would ask him. Awesome. Like,
So tell me more, like what are you doing right now? I know you're doing a lot of stuff. Cool
um,
stuff.
somehow found myself in the film industry.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, you live in LA long enough, right? You end up there. It's all in like preliminary. Is that how you say the word?
Yeah, I
Like,
think so.
okay, preliminary
Preliminary.
stages.
No, just,
Uh, not much to talk about there yet because it's all question marks. But
yeah.
what else am I doing? Our writing group, weekly
Mm-hmm.
writing group,
Mm-hmm.
keeping the community alive. A Social Underground. That kind of just turned into an Instagram literary magazine. I don't know what happened, but I kind of just like, because we were doing these readings on Instagram Live,
Yeah.
and then I kind of took a break from that, and then with the intention of continuing it, and then after a while, I just started noticing that I was just using the platform to share other people's work in the
Yeah.
Instagram story, and I was like, oh, it's like a literary magazine where I don't actually have to like solicit work. It just already exists in the world, and it's like not getting enough attention, so I'll like share it. So That's another project I'm kind of working on. Yeah, other than that, like, I don't know, I have, a manuscript from my thesis
Yeah.
from Regis, and I don't know what, I just kind of like put that aside. I haven't really looked at it since I graduated. I was just like, all right, cool, did that. What's next?
I think I did the same thing, and now I'm like tentatively sending it out. People are like, no, not for us, not for us. Not. And I'm like,
No, I haven't actually read your thesis, but I went to your defense and it sounded really cool.
Thanks.
With like hybrid work, the in-between.
I hope it's actually good, but it's like I've like torn it apart and put it back together and scrambled it up and stuff so many times. I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm working on some other things too, and hoping someone will bite on that. And remember like Sophronia Scott, where like I think this is right. There were like 2 or 3 books in a row that got published of hers, like all at the same time. And like that's something like a lot of people don't realize is like sometimes these books have been cooking for so long, or like we've had them out for so long. Like there was someone else, Brandy Holman, she was talking about how initially she sent her book out to like 40 people. All of them said no, and then she redid it a little bit and sent it out to 10, and then finally sent a couple bit, and it got published. And that takes time. That takes a lot of time. And then obviously we're working on other stuff, and then sometimes it's the book that you want to come out first might not come out first or at all.
Yeah, it'll be like your 10th manuscript. It's like the one you wrote when you were like 18 or something.
Right. Yeah. Like, oh, now they're interested in my juvenilia. Great. Like right. when you're past it, like.
Yeah. You're like, I don't want to read this at readings. It's just
angst. Right? It's like, yeah, that did happen. We don't talk about that, but you can buy it if you want.
Right. And just don't talk to me about it after you read it.
And another thing you don't talk about a lot is your work. I know it's really weird to like be put on the spot, because I get that way too, but like truly your work is fantastic. And it's like when I was in that group at Regis, I was like, why haven't I just been hanging out with the poets? Because I started out with fiction, and I was just like, because I got my mind blown by everybody at that table. And when I read yours, like my jaw dropped, I was just like, what are you doing? I don't even, like, I want to, please teach me.
Yeah, I guess I could start at the beginning. I don't know if you want like the whole history of me, but
yeah, I do.
So it all started before I was born. My mom's a writer. Well,
okay.
She was a literature teacher for most of her career, but she studied screenwriting.
Yeah.
And so she and my dad's an engineer, so it's kind of a strange upbringing to have like this creative side and then this like scientific side kind of like fighting in your brain.
Yeah.
But my mom always encouraged, writing. Like even before I could write, she would have me tell her stories when I was a kid, and she would like write them for me. She would like transcribe them. And I just like kind of always wrote ever since. Like I have all these like really weird short stories that I wrote when I was like 5. They were really surreal too, which is interesting.
What? Pull them back up, because have you heard of Axe Cop?
Mm-mm.
Like, oh my gosh, look up Axe Cop and then look up why Axe Cop happened, and then you might pull those back out, and Hollywood, etc. Anyway, continue.
Okay. It was like one of them was about like a girl who like she was like throwing a tantrum or something, I forget about what, and like her family like left her in the desert and was like, you need to learn your lesson. She was like a rich girl. And the family was like, she was like dropped off in a limo in the desert. They were like, you need to learn your lessons. They just like left her in the
tough love.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was in 1st grade when I wrote this story. I don't know. And then somehow she was like sorry and like cried, and this like magic grapevine grew and like quenched her thirst, and then the limo came back to get her or something.
This is Okay, yeah, you're gonna have to pull those up sometime. That's amazing.
One of them was the day where it rained pennies. I wrote that one in kindergarten. But anyway, so that's where I started writing.
So you were always brilliant.
Oh no, I was always working with words.
Yeah.
And I'm from a really big family too. Like
Yeah.
I have 4 siblings. And we all grew up in this like small house. So, you just kind of get used to going inward.
Mm-hmm.
And being, pretty private in your own mind, because that's where your privacy is,
Yeah.
like one bathroom. I think at one point I shared a room with 2 of my siblings.
Ooh.
You just didn't have privacy, so your mind became your privacy. I mean, I love my siblings. They're like some of my favorite people, and I'm sure it's because we were, in a room for so long together. But now they're like my best friends. But I feel like I went on a long tangent. Oh, and then high school. In high school, I was in this film program for like 4 years. And then I kind of realized that I liked creative writing more, because, you in film, you like write something and then it becomes something else because it's like so collaborative.
Yeah.
And then I think I didn't want to lose that control. And I also really liked the language aspect, which kind of didn't really matter too much in like a screenplay.
Right.
So then I started studying creative. I was writing a novel in high school too. And then I started studying creative writing because my parents were like, you need to go to college. And I was like, well, I don't want to go to college. And I was like, what can I study? I'm like not good at anything. So then I was like, oh, you can study writing. So then I did, and that's when the community really started for me, was at CSUN, which is where I went for my undergrad in California. And then I went to Regis, and here we are.
We are. Yeah, Regis was a surprise. I don't need to get too much into that, but like essentially I got tired of one of my undergrad professors. She's become like a really super good friend of mine, like kind of an adopted mother, and also a friend. So like, sometimes she gets real stern with me, and I was putting it off because I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back to school, that freaking academic jive, blah, blah, blah. And one day in front of all my friends, because I used to have these like I call them non sequitur exquisite corpse parties. And we would get together and have a potluck and write exquisite corpse poems, because that's real fun for me. And
We should write one.
Yes, please. Let's do it. Like, she waited till everyone sat down with their little plates and stuff, and she's like, why aren't you in grad school? And I'm like, okay. And like right about then Regis opened their program, and I was like, okay, see, I'm doing it. Are you proud of me?
Don't yell at me. I'm getting a degree. It's funny, we both are just like, don't yell at me, I'm getting a degree.
Yeah, I'm doing it. So yeah, I'm like the reluctant kind of in that world person, but obviously there are a lot of things I love about it, because it's like there are a lot of things I think about who I am that excite me about that world. And I, obviously she could see that a little better than I could, because also there are a lot of things that are really hard and frustrating and stupid about that world too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like everywhere, no matter where you go, it's gonna be there.
No matter where. So I don't know, where do we go from there? Like, but there's so much more that you're doing, and that's why I want to do these talks too, because like, like I was working a little bit in journalism, and like kind of through the back door, and I didn't go to journalism school. And so there are a lot of things. I just feel like I'm constantly on training wheels and stuff. And then it's like, you're not really supposed to interview your friends or promote their things. There's an ethical thing there, which, totally understandable. But that's the thing, is like, I need to be able to like work in the world that I work in. And I felt like that work was taking me away from it. And it was also like, and it's also hard. There are a lot of people I want to protect, and like a lot of like a lot of integrity kinds of things and ethics in a different way than journalism is. And I feel like I have to be a different kind of person in journalism than I am in my actual heart, and there are a bunch of other frustrating things too, like obviously that, anyway, we don't need to get into that part, but like I wanted to talk with people around me who are amazing, and it's overwhelming really, like, because there are so many people that are that I admire so much, and it's just like that's who I want to talk with, because I want to build community too. And so it's like we all only have so much time and availability and energy and like willpower,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And it's just like if it's not feeding our work too somehow, um, it almost seems moot. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
can't keep compartmentalizing myself. Um, um, I don't know, for whatever all that rambling jive is worth.
Yeah,
There it is.
I like that you're constantly on training wheels. That's how I feel too. But
Mhm.
at the
I feel
same
like that.
time, like I don't want to know everything.
I
I feel
don't.
like if I knew everything, like I just wouldn't care,
Right.
you know. So I feel like the act of learning is what drives me
Yeah.
more than the act of knowing, if
And
that makes sense.
that's such a beautiful thing too, because like it is endless. Like, sure, probably we won't become Dr. Manhattan, and that's probably really good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
I like that character a lot, because like it's a nice dream to think that we could come to this place where we just don't give a fuck, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, stars, and I don't know what my brain. I'm just here, man. Like, just
Then doesn't he like explode in the end or something?
I can't remember,
I
but
haven't read that in
probably.
a long time, but or seen the movie.
But it's like it's a really interesting thing to think about, like just like, yeah, I think when I was younger I wanted to try to know everything and always wanted to try to be right and like, one up everyone or whatever, but I just don't have the energy for that. And like
Mm-hmm.
it's not possible. It is not possible. It's just not. Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
Right? I don't want to know everything.
You can
And
let
I'm
other people be the expert with a lot of stuff.
yeah. I mean, you can be an expert at one thing, and then so and so is an expert at that thing, and then you all come together, and then there's the knowing is in the community, as opposed
Yeah.
to like one person who like wants to hold that
Right.
knowledge.
Well,
Then where's the community aspect of it?
an interesting thing that most people don't know about companies and organizations and nonprofits and on is that a CEO or head of a good CEO or head of a community or whatever, well, maybe even not even good, but like smart in a certain way, will hire people who are smarter than they are in so many different areas. Um,
Mm-hmm.
even people who are like highly super specialized and accomplished. I mean, we see it a lot in academia, but it happens in organizations and stuff too, because you know you can't be a project manager and an accountant
Mm-hmm.
and all the different pieces that make up this huge organization. Like you need
Mm-hmm.
people who specialize in those things and who are badasses at it. And if you can like inspire and keep the badasses on your team, then like you've got an amazing thing happening.
Yeah.
um and that's something a lot of people don't know. I didn't know that because I know for a long time, probably till pretty recently, I've been trying to learn everything, but it becomes
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming. It's like, oh, I'm going to learn coding now, or I'm going to learn this or that. uh
Mm-hmm.
mm-mm.
I mean, that'd be cool to learn coding. I wish I could do that. My brother is a
Yeah,
software developer.
but
I never know what he's talking about.
I think
Um,
I think it's like anything, right? Like say practicing the guitar, you like build a vocabulary and skill set and stuff and tools, and you have resources, and like and you just practice.
mhm.
um Anyway,
It's true.
so
Yeah.
you're entering into Hollywood, you're entering into like I want to say the recording industry, because I consider Spotify the recording industry, because
Okay.
it's like this weird thing that happened over the last 10-12 years or however long, where we can do things differently, and it's becoming more and more fluid and stuff.
Mhm.
And in a lot of ways we do have a lot more skills that we're able to like move around and stuff. And then all of those things, like how, okay, here's a better question. I'm like going around in circles. Um, can you talk a little bit about how social media is kind of forming and framing the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's interesting. Um,
Social media and the internet. Let's say the
the
internet.
internet too, yeah. I think mostly I'm just on Instagram at this point. But I was just talking with my boyfriend. I feel like I keep bringing him up because he's one of the only people I hang out with these days. But I was just talking with him about because we were talking about how we go through phases where we're like on social media a lot, and then when we actually like have a lot going on in our lives, we're just like not there. You know, we just like
Mm-hmm.
disappear. Um, and he was saying, you know, if I ever get really busy, like I don't think I'll ever use it. And I was like, I don't know, like I kind of like that I can like know everything about a person without ever having to talk to them, you know? It's like, oh, I saw 2 years ago on Instagram that you got a new job. How's that going? Or something. And, you know, I'm keeping up with like hundreds of people that I care about
Yeah.
without having to call them and wait for them to answer the phone, or, you know, everyone be available at the same time. And, you know, there's like people from elementary school on Instagram that I haven't seen since elementary school, but like I still kind of know them because of like, we like each other's posts. I don't know. It's like so weird. Like now that I
Yeah.
think about it,
A lot of
but
people a lot of people give it a lot of shit, but like it's there are certain things that it does for us that I think are really important to note, what you're touching on, you know, like
yeah, it's interesting because I wonder how this affects our brains. You know, because like we
mhm.
didn't have social media before. You know, the people
Yeah.
that you didn't see, you forgot, right? But
Yeah.
now it's like they're still there, and you're still remembering. And how many files in your brain can you have for one person? Because
Right.
when I know people, like I know them, you know, like I know their birthdays, I know, you know, their favorite color, I know like all these things, and I know so many people that it's just like, you know, when is it gonna, you
Right.
know, start affecting me? And maybe it already is. Like I'm a little bit scatterbrained, but ultimately, like, you know, I always remember people's names. I don't know why. Like I'll
I
be like, oh yeah, I met them at a party 3 years ago. They're from this city. They do this. This is their name. And Mike's like, wow, you really listen to people. I'm like, well, what else are you supposed to do when they're
yeah.
talking? I don't know.
I listen to people and I think it is some kind of way like people's brains work. And I'm saying this in my defense because like I'll remember faces and stuff and I won't always remember names.
Mm-hmm.
Like and those kinds of details. I've actually gotten that feedback from people who are very close to me in the past. It's like I remember everything, even the thing you were wearing and the things that we were eating on this date, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm so glad your brain works that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, mine doesn't.
Yeah, but
Um,
but
you
what do
know,
you remember though?
what
Because
what do I remember? I remember, I think it's like impressions and feelings um and things like that. It's just like and things get a little mushy for me sometimes. It's even like in like remembering movies. If I haven't watched a movie like 100 times, I probably don't remember it that well. And it isn't because I wasn't paying attention. I was absolutely absorbed when I was watching it. It's just like I think that my brain just goes so fast and it's like all over the place on 15 tracks at the same time. Like it's hard for me to focus in on certain things most of the time unless I'm in like a hyper aware state. Um,
yeah,
you know, and I really think it's just the way I function. I've been accused of it of being, you know, inattentive and things like that. And I guess to a certain degree, maybe that's true, because you know I can super laser focus, um, but most of the time my state is just like it is kind of scattered, and um, those words have weird connotations because I've had to reframe a lot of that stuff for me, for myself, like, you know, like working in therapy and stuff. Yeah, probably ADHD. It hasn't been like totally defined, but we're working on some stuff surrounding that. But like, there are some boons that come with that, like throwing the net out really wide, and like there are all these nodes you see, right? And they're all moving around or whatever, and you can kind of catch them and connect them, or even make associations that are difficult to make otherwise, I think. So it's just a certain way that my brain works.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's beautiful though. Like I don't think everyone's brain should work in one way. Like
Me
I
either.
think that's what makes it art. You know, what you remember. Because for me, I remember colors a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember um, what people say a lot. I don't know if you've noticed
Yeah.
that. Like in my poetry, there's always like these random quotes, and like sometimes they're never explained, and it's just like something I heard on the sidewalk or something
Yeah.
someone said to me once that keeps repeating like obsessively in my mind, or um, even that like inner voice. That's like usually when a poem starts for me, is when
Yeah.
like I'll say something in my head and I'm like, oh, there's something there, and then like I'll start exploring it on the page. But I don't think people's brains should work in one way. I think, you know, that's what makes us unique, and it would be interesting to do like some kind of exercise with you, and maybe like our writing group this week, whatever day that
Yeah.
is, um, to see if we all have like one memory together and like we all write what we remember from that moment. And it would be so interesting to see, because I bet we're gonna get all six of the senses, you know,
Oh
we're gonna
my
get all the
gosh.
colors, all the dates, all the facts, but also all the emotions too. So it'd be
Right.
pretty interesting.
That is interesting because it is cool. I love this group because everyone is so different, and everyone like when we do an exercise, everyone's getting at it from a different way. And like sometimes I'm not able to access certain exercises, but then I'm like, oh, okay, there's the way in, or there's a way in, you know, and then I can unravel it from there. And so it's just so cool to be working because like I feel like poetry is different in certain ways that there isn't like I mean there isn't any clear path for writing, I don't think, anyway, I feel like. But some, like you were saying earlier, some are more structured than others. Like screenwriting for film is more structured than theater is more structured than fiction is, you know, etc. And it could be any derivation at all. And then poetry, I feel like there are just so many ways to go about it. Some people try to be real structured about it, with, you know, all the different movements that have happened, like just remember.
Yeah,
But the thing
academic
is
only,
that
like
that would
T.S.
be,
Eliot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys. I love them and
Yeah.
hate them. Um, but like I think that would be a really interesting study, like, you know, like thinking about linguistics and thinking about brain stuff, neuroscience and stuff like that, and like doing a bunch of experiment. I'm like, probably shouldn't be giving this away, and we should be talking about this in the writing group. It's like
Yeah,
doing like
right.
different kinds of, but like really, there's enough room for everyone, and so like doing these kinds of experiments, like with all, like, I don't know. Yeah, yes, we should do something like that. Short story, yes. Fuck yes,
Yeah.
can we?
Yeah.
And
We should.
opening it up and seeing what happens. I want to do that because
Yeah.
that excites me. Like,
Mhm.
you know, the effects of language, the effects of upbringing, and you know, like all the different things that make us up and our brain functioning and stuff like that. And even physiologically, those things come out in the experiments that we're doing on the page. And even if
Mhm.
we're working in a form, like it's still, you know, Shakespeare is different than a Shakespeare sonnet is different than a, I don't know, I haven't read a lot of sonnets.
Me neither. I like sometimes when you're at like a dinner party and everyone's like, "Oh, like you studied poetry," and they start like
Yeah.
listing all these poets. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just read what I want to read. Like, I don't know what
Like,
you're talking
I'm
about.
glad you took that literature survey course in your undergrad, you know, fuck
Right?
you. Like,
Yeah, when they start reciting poetry to you, or when they ask you to recite poetry, or like to read, like recite one of your poems, you're like, oh, this isn't the place for that. Like, I'm not just gonna like stop a dinner table and make people listen to poetry. Like, no one wants to do that. Like,
right. It's like, yeah, this is like, oh, yeah, you don't know what I write. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe in 10 years if you're still around.
Right. Oh my god.
So like that reminded me too. I have my little list here. You wanted to talk a little bit about transmedia and structured, like um, talking about. I I wrote structured talks about unstructured projects. Oh yeah, okay. So like, because both of us do a lot of hybrid forms and stuff,
Mhm.
and also like playing with lines, playing with enjambments, playing with space.
Mhm.
You especially, you do these amazing things with space on the page, and just like all of those kinds of things, and like connecting it to like these kind of thought experiments and stuff, and language, and on the page. I don't know. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So, the term transmedia I just came across recently at St. John. Do you know St. John?
Yeah.
Okay, at St.
Say his
John.
whole name because he's in theater and
Oh,
stuff, and he does cool stuff too.
St. John Jones, who
Yeah.
everyone should know. Um, at his thesis defense, he was talking about transmedia, and I was like, I don't know what that means. But then when he was talking about it, I was like, oh, that's what I do. I think. I don't know. I still have to research it. So maybe I'll call it multimedia for now, and then I'll research it, and then we'll go back to the term transmedia. But it seems to be like, mixing all forms, mixing all types of media, mixing just what's St. John's website? We should call it
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Um,
I could share it too.
oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, he did his thesis defense really recently. I want to say like a month ago, and he has his thesis online, and it's like interactive, and you like click stuff, and you like are part of it. Oh, you're gonna share the whole thing?
Yeah. Is this what you're talking about?
Uh, I think so. Or maybe that's a different Sinjin.
Oh shoot. Really? It says StJones.com. Let's see. Let's see what it says in the about. Yeah, I'll
Unless
get
he
to see together.
changed his website recently.
Is that him?
I don't think so.
Oh, are you sure?
Oh wait, yeah, it is. It is.
I'm like, that
Okay.
looks like him. I
Yeah,
am a storyteller and a
transmedia.
transmedia artist. Rad.
Okay, he changed his website recently because
It's
it
so
didn't look like
shiny.
this before. I feel bad. We're like calling out Sinjin, and we're like, okay, maybe it's in his portfolio.
Let's see what's in here. Written.
Choose your adventure, maybe.
What? Oh, I think that's a tagline. So poetry, prose.
Okay.
Let's look at some of his poems. I think I've seen some of this. Cool. I don't know if this is what you were talking about, but
Um,
I'm
it's like
trying
his
to read.
actual thesis. We're just like hardcore stalking Sinjin right now.
We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to
We
like
love you,
reach out to Sinjin
Sinjin.
now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, now you have to have Sinjin on here and have him actually talk about whatever I just like butchered.
Anyway, you
I was
were
like, he
saying.
inspired me. I can't find it, but he inspired me.
We tried. We tried.
Yeah, part of me wants to maybe I have it because I had it on my phone and like that's like a tab that's open to like come back to it.
Yeah,
Let me see if it's there. Oh my god, there's so many tabs open here.
that's the story of my life.
Wow, it just keeps going.
4 machines, so many tabs.
Right?
It's like, why is my computer working?
Right? It keeps freezing. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll just have to ask Sinjin later.
Okay.
Sinjin's cool, long story short. Um, and he's doing a lot of just this like multimedia or transmedia, in his words,
Okay.
between different platforms. Like his thesis, you can like download like the preface and stuff, and like depending on where you click, like it tells you like a history, like a backstory
Right.
of like the characters. And there was like one point where there was like an archive on his website. There was like an archive that I think it told you within the story to go back to the archive, and then like you get like more information, kind of like a video game.
Right.
I know like this one game I played, Detroit Become Human. Like if you pick up like a newspaper, it'll give you like this long history that like somebody wrote somewhere, you know, and it's like so cool to see like that aspect of the story. You could either pick it up or not.
Right.
And then so I like that aspect of it, where like you choose, you know, your story, you choose how it's told or what you know. It's like your own
Shit,
learning.
yes. I mean, so I went through a whole huge phase of like choose your own adventure books when I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid, and still have a special place in my heart for them. And every once in a while I see something like I saw a couple of Twitter sites that were doing choose your own adventure
Mm-hmm.
things. And then there's also I wonder if he knows about the ELO, the Electronic Literature Organization or something like that. And essentially like it's folks for a long time. There are different so sorry, 15 different things. Bringing
Mm-hmm.
it back. ELO, I think I'm saying that right. Electronic literature, they just had a festival, and essentially a lot of people who write poems and stories and all these different things, they create them online on the internet. And so they know things like coding and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, and they make these grids and all these other things, and they make these amazing stories and things online. um, and the internet is really interesting because it also like over time some of those things disappear and ghost and like all
Mm-hmm.
those other things. And so there are different ways people have been playing with them, and so this is exciting to me because it means it's not dead, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it feels like it's like going away. And like the festivals and or conferences are for people who, you know, are of the old stock, who like know super old coding languages and stuff that you know, no one had time to preserve
The dead
because
languages of
yeah, they're dead
software.
languages.
Yeah.
It's fascinating and also a little sad, because there are tons of things that are getting lost. Like there's just not enough people in the know to be able to archive them and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but like not getting too far off track, I'm excited about hearing about what Sinjin does, because yeah, it's like I don't know. There's a connection to be made there. Like there's someone
Mm-hmm.
else specifically I'm thinking of in mind, and she teaches. I think it's CU Boulder, a lot of this electronic literature stuff. So like
Mm-hmm.
there's something that has to happen there, I think. Anyway, you were saying,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Um, I think continuing on what you were saying, I think a lot of it is that people are so focused on the future and not becoming themselves obsolete, that that's
Mm-hmm.
why all these things can't be archived, especially like in technology, like how quickly, like, okay, I
So
was born in
fast.
the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had internet when I was a kid, but it was like, you know, we were only allowed to use it to research Paul Revere reports. You know, we like it wasn't, or to I learned to type using AIM.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I can type without looking, not because like you know, because of a class I took, but because I wanted to communicate faster. So
Yeah.
I adapted because we didn't have texting or, but like look at us now, like, you know,
Nuts.
I love
Yeah.
that we're like meeting in this like in between space, because I feel like you and I, you know, talk about that in between so often. And I love
Yeah.
that that's where we keep meeting, you know, because you're in Denver, I'm in LA, like, and this is Zoom is our in between. And I feel like that just like, you know, it makes so much sense for us. But I
Yeah.
don't know what I was talking about, but
It Thank you for reminding me of that. Like that's a lot of what I seek personally too. Like I have a lot of my own agendas, and some of those agendas are like finding folks who are in those in between places, in the intersections, the margins and stuff. Like truly, like those of us who like um, maybe we're told we weren't part of the conversation sometimes, but there are things that we're seeing that other people aren't able to see because they're so incredibly invested, and I think that's important. I always have to emphasize, and also acknowledge that it's important, the in-between places too, because this is part of the not that I'm being left out. I don't feel like that anymore. I feel like, oh, this is why I'm here, like, okay, I can see a little bit of why I'm here. My experience is not the same, and maybe the things that I'm seeing can help, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of us are getting stuck in a lot of different ways that are too complicated to talk about right now, without
Mm-hmm.
writing, some really very thoughtful and well-researched essays first.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just spouting off out my mouth, and getting in trouble. But like,
No.
yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. Like, because sometimes I forget too. I'm like, I just know. I'm like, I want to talk to you. I want to be your
Mm-hmm.
friend.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, we were. I don't know. So it's interesting that, like, yeah, I mean, physically and mentally and emotionally, we're in these in between places, and we're also, that's our work too.
Mm-hmm.
Is like kind of like these hybrid works that include dialogue and like poetry and prose and like images and music, and all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
other stuff, and like also multimodal, and it's cool. I think it's cool too, because I think a lot of academic-y stuff, I think it's changing a little bit because there's so many academic arenas now, for
Mm-hmm.
writing and stuff and performance, where things are just bleeding together. But we live in a multimedia, multimodal world, and it's just like, whereas before, I feel like everything had to be compartmentalized. Uh, there are so many more possibilities now, and it's like, how do we reach people? How do we expand and like communicate and like, I don't know, feel? Because really, that's mostly what it is. It's like, I'm not necessarily writing this stuff for other people, um, but I need to figure it out for my own mental health and well-being. Um, and so how do I get at it? I don't know. I'm talking too much.
Mm-hmm. No, you're not. Um, yeah, I agree. Like, especially with the feeling aspect of it. I guess a lot of people I've noticed, and I think that's why I do feel very much in between without
Mhm.
getting into, the politics of it. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of people, are like, you write so you can get it published, so you can get an audience, so you can be remembered forever. It's like,
And
that's
so you
not
can
why I
teach in
write.
an MFA program and actually get a decent,
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A decent something, yeah.
maybe.
Um, but I always was very, very resistant to that. And I think for me, like, that's not why I write. I think why I write changes every single day,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've been doing it for so long. It's just part of my language at this point. It's my way of communicating,
Right.
expressing myself. Because verbally, you know, I like when I talk to people and you tell them, that you write poetry, they get confused sometimes when they're talking to me
Yeah.
because like I don't talk like a poet.
Uh, uh,
I'm not
I'm
just like,
I'm
oh,
always worried about poets who talk like poets. You're like,
yeah.
It's kind of like the person who says they love jazz, and Kenny G is at the top of their list. Like, cool, yeah, he's a monster player. He just has no soul. It's fine. Um,
No soul.
like, have you listened to Miles Davis though?
Right. um,
Not to be a snob, but kind of.
I mean, we can all be snobs. I think ultimately this is a totally different tangent than the other tangent I was just on because I don't even remember what my last tangent was. But I don't know. I feel like just let people do whatever they want. Okay, I don't even know why I'm bringing up Ruby Kaur right now. I don't know if that's how you say her name, but
God bless
everyone
her.
so long was just like hating on her because of,
Yeah.
oh, she's not a poet, she's not a poet. I'm like, who cares? Like, just let her do whatever she's doing. It's helping her, it's helping other people. Like,
Yeah.
just because you don't like it doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Well, and I have to admit, like I was trying not to like Rupi Kaur, but I actually really do like Rupi Kaur, and I'm also very jealous because I mean, if you're a poet, and your fucking book is in Target, you have made it.
Mhm. Right? You're the only poetry book ever to be in Target.
It's like,
I've never
wait,
actually read her stuff, to be honest.
I have, and I'm just like, wait, so I should have like started putting my stuff on Instagram. They were wrong because everyone tells you not to publish your stuff online, you know.
Oh yeah, now that's like the place to do it. Like now it's like, people are published in journals. Okay, no one ever reads the whole journal when someone's published in a journal. No one ever does. They just take a picture of their thing, post it online, everyone reads it, congratulates them, and then no one actually goes to read the journal.
I still want to read my journals. I have many years stacks of different journals and stuff, and I do mean to read them.
Right. Everyone always
But you're
means
right.
to, right?
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It's just like I would have been noticing when I'm just like, okay, so basically the writing gets published, they post it to their own individual Instagram, and then eventually everyone's writing gets read by their people, but never by anyone else. So I don't know. It's like I'm confused. Like,
Well, it's the world we live in, right? Like I remember
yeah.
feeling a lot of anxiety, like gosh, like 10, 12 years ago when I was doing volunteer work for different organizations for their social medias and stuff, and we were
Mhm.
talking about like building audience and stuff, and it's just like it's almost like you have to constantly, and a lot of us feel this, and you see it all over like Facebook and Insta and stuff. It's like we're building audiences with whoever we are, so that when we do have that book there's an audience, like, and that
Mhm.
feels icky, to me a little bit. Like that happened to me in MFA too. Like actually by someone, they put their hand on my shoulder and I was like, get your hand on my shoulder.
Ooh, yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about in that kind of
Mhm.
way. And
Yeah.
they're like, and they were essentially telling me that I needed to support a certain thing, to have an audience for my thing when it becomes available. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing that makes me not feel good,
Mhm.
because I just want to do what I want to do. And like I I don't have a lot of headspace to be like, oh yeah, there are these 82 people that I have to promote all the time. And I will talk about their stuff if I totally love it. And especially if I'm involved somehow. That's kind of the deal I made
Mhm.
with myself because I had to, because I know so many awesome people. And like,
Mhm.
um, but there's like that kind of mentality. And I think it's a part of what community is, it's not.
Mhm.
I feel like there has to be bigger thinking about like how can we spread it out more and like be able to like create a container to boost those 82 people or 150 or 3,450, whatever the number is. It's just like
Yeah.
how can everyone get a little bit of that push and energy, and then how can I be true to the things that I want to create in my life too.
Yeah.
um
Without always being the supporter and never receiving the support.
without fucking hemorrhaging all the time, because really
Yeah.
what we're talking about here is like
Yeah, right?
energetic
The
hemorrhaging.
brain about to explode.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
um deep thoughts. Um
Just thinking about how to financially support people, because that's important to me
yeah.
too. Making sure that everyone's getting a little bit of, because like a lot of people, get their work published, but
Mhm.
it's for free, and I
Mhm.
get it. Like no one in this, I don't even know. I don't even want to call it an industry because it doesn't even feel like one anymore. But in this literature community, has money. Like, and if they do, like, it's barely enough.
Right.
And it's because they've worked so hard to get that barely enough money.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like I have like a secret plan to like funnel money from. I've been doing this like basically since I was like 18, but I remember I was like working, like a desk job, and whenever I would get a paycheck, I would spend that paycheck on ISBN numbers, or, you know, like funnel into
Yeah,
the publishing company I had at the time. And I'm like, I'm just working this other job so I can afford to work this other job. Like, what?
that's a lot of us do that. Like we pay out of our own pocket, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in the creative world, and then we are the ones who are supporting each other's work too.
Yeah, exactly. We're just like handing money back and forth to each
Yeah,
other.
the same 20 spot. Here you go.
Yeah.
Got you.
Like, oh, you bought my book last week. I'll buy your
Yeah.
book this week.
It's true. I think about that too. Like, so like a simple thing for me is like, you know, I've tried to start this literary magazine on and off for like a long time now, and have
Mhm.
given up more than once, and just on the back burner. But I had an idea again, and like, you know, everyone thinks it has to always have like a certain rhythm and has to be like this kind of deadline, maybe. And I
Mhm.
was thinking about like a lot of people are like pushing me to do that Patreon site,
Mhm.
and I'm just like a little freaked out by it, because it just means like, you know, you definitely have to like every month someone's giving me money, so I have to fulfill some kind of promise every month,
Mhm.
and I have to figure out how to make that sustainable. And I was thinking about that in like the literary magazine mindset, like, okay, I'm supporting myself, and if you do $50 every month, that will help me pay another writer every month, if this is
Mhm.
the thing you choose. And that would make me feel good about reaching out to some folks and being like, whoa, you know, I really love what you said about this, can you expand this into a, you know, 1,500 word essay or whatever, and you get a 50
Mhm.
spot. And that's more than some magazines and newspapers are able to pay folks, you
Mhm.
know. And it would be, you know, because technically, I mean, that's the thing, like having any kind of publication is, it's difficult because they might not last, and it ghosts you, like you see it on people's CVs and stuff all the time, like all these publications, you follow the links, you know, I'm
Mhm.
fangirling on some folks and I'm like checking out the links, I'm like, oh, that doesn't, it's a 404 error.
I think that's half of my portfolio at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
It's like 404 error, or like defunct, or it's a literary magazine that like 50 other literary magazines have the same exact title, because apparently no one did that research. um,
Yeah.
but like it's something, and it's some kind of like, you know, there the, I guess what I'm trying to get to is like there are so many publications that they do stay on top of the feed, and so the feed clicks down the, you know, down the table, click click
Mhm.
click click click, and you have to constantly feed it, right? So
Mhm.
that's one way to do it. But if you truly value people's work, like mm, you know, you would amplify it a little more than just the publication. And so a lot of times the publications are like, hey, we're doing this thing, give me your stuff, and it's a publication credit, great, you know,
Mhm.
cool, like that's important too. But like I'm always trying to figure out like, what if we can make it last just a little while longer? Or I don't know if you know Matthias Sfolina. um
Not personally, but he came to Regis and did a reading when I was
Nice.
there. Yeah.
He's like become very quickly one of my favorite people, and he just is always putting out like making, creating stuff,
Mhm.
and poetry and words and images and activities and projects, and he just does them, but he's never tied to them, or they're never tied to them,
Mhm.
and so there are a lot of things they don't even remember they've done. Like if
Mhm.
you bring it up, they're like, I don't even remember that.
Mhm.
And it's kind of neat too, because a lot of the chapbooks, some of them are like, you know, just copied themselves, and then some of them are published on different small presses and stuff,
Mhm.
and a lot of them you can't find. And there's
Mhm.
something really beautiful about that, because like everything's so mass produced or like clicks down the feed, but it's a little bit different, right? It creates like some kind of like mystique and community in a different way, in another level. And I feel like artists and poets are like really tend towards that kind of thing, where we
Mhm.
kind of make ourselves collectible in a certain way. I know that
Yeah.
probably sounds kind of crass, but it's just like, you know, when I borrowed this stack of Matthias's books from a friend, it was like, it was kind of a sacred thing, right?
Mhm.
because there are some of these books that I can't even find myself, or someone's trying
Yeah.
to sell them on eBay or something for like $200,000-$300,000 or something, but
Oh my God.
because they're just not available anymore, and they're kind of precious. And I don't know, I love seeing more of that. I've always been really kind of enamored of those kinds of things, that, you know, maybe aren't going to be accessible to everyone unless they're in those communities. I don't know what I'm saying. Help me.
Um,
Help me.
I'm gonna try to go to the very beginning. We were talking about money feeding the machine, or feeding
Yeah.
the.
Well, how do we help each other beyond passing the same 20 spot?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'm just hoping that one day, if I ever find financial success, that, you know, I'm just gonna bomb drop large amounts of money, and I don't know how though. But
Like invite all the writers you love and artists and stuff that you love into one kind of arena and be like, okay, be there by 3 o'clock. You know, you tell them a little earlier so
yeah,
that they get there on time.
7 hours earlier.
7 hours earlier.
2 days early.
2 days. Everyone's like, what's going on? We're camping out.
Right. Yeah.
Because there are a couple there that are there early, you know, like just totally legit. But like, yeah, it's true. Folks are going to be strolling in like, did I miss it? Nope.
Yeah.
You're right on time.
Wait,
and then
so what's going on?
just wait. The sky's going to open up.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just hoping. That's been my plan since I was very, very young, because I saw what was going on
Yeah.
in the literary world, and I was just like, this is messed up, but I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, financially, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't have money, so, but one day, if I do, I'm promising it to this community.
That's so cool. And I get that. It seems insurmountable. Like, how many talks have we been in, even at Regis, where, you know, publishers or agents will come and talk with us and stuff and tell us kind of the lay of the land, and like, poets are SOL ad infinitum. So yeah, we probably won't become penguin poets, and even penguin poets get the shaft. So
Yeah.
so unless you're Rupi Kaur,
Right. Respect,
because obviously you're doing something right, you know.
right? Just because it's not what everyone thinks is right doesn't mean it isn't.
The thing about Rupi Kaur and poets like Rupi Kaur is like, there is a certain universality, and people really crave that. They want access. They want access to something beautiful, and they want access to like kind of that aphoristic knowledge, you know, like the what is it, the WCW quote, William Carlos Williams, something about the news is difficult to get from poems, but people, I'm messing it up, but people want it every day, or something like that. I'm so sorry. I got it
I
wrong.
remember seeing a meme or whatever with that quote on it. Yeah. But I mean, I don't remember what the quote was, but
that's why people love Rupi Kaur. It's because we're moving so fast, and like, you know, that if you look at the books, they're very beautiful. Like even the covers, it's just kind of an aphoristic kind of poetic line that, you know, it's not necessarily deep, but it kind of is, and it makes you stop. Like literally, there's so much space on the page in this one thought, and there's a lot of us can learn from that. It's just like, well, how do we talk to our audience? Like, we don't need to be obscure all the time, and this is what all of us crave, you know. It's like that kind of connection. So
yeah, I do. I really like things that are concise, like, which I think is why I tend toward poetry. Though of course there's always prose poetry too. I just feel like it has to fit the moment, whatever that moment is that the writer's trying to write. Like, you know, I'll write a prose poem when I'm feeling overwhelmed with, you know, thoughts, emotions, and I'll write, you know, really almost inaccessible poetry when I'm trying to hide or something. And there's like a thought that I want to express, but I'm not letting myself, or, you know, I'm only giving so much. Or I'll write, you know, playful poetry, which you also do as well. You do all of these things, where it's just like, you know.
I'm starting to do that a little more. It's because of y'all. Like,
Oh,
hey, I'm gonna be goofy.
yeah. I noticed in the writing group you've been playing around a lot, which I thought was pretty cool. Or playful poetry is just like, you know, for the sake of doing it, you know, for the sake of language, you know, E. Cummings-esque. Had to drop him in. Andre, I can hear Andre talking shit right now. He's like, that motherfucker, let him on.
I'm gonna ask him. I'm like, Andre, why do you hate E. Cummings so much?
He's just gonna be like, Sarah always mentions E. Cummings every week, man. I can hear him. Hi, Andre. But yeah, I don't know. There are so many people who are like, I have to write form poetry. I cannot physically write. I remember Khadijah was trying to get me to write form poetry when I was working with her.
I'm a little surprised.
That Khadijah was?
Yeah, well, because she was telling me when she was my mentor, like, I want to see something weird. Just write something weird, like stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was doing a lot of prose poems, you know. She's like,
oh yeah,
I'm bored.
I think she was kind of like, you're too wild. I'm trying to rein you in or something. She was like, just try one form. And I think I tried to write like the first line of like a pantoum or something, and I was just like, yeah, fuck this. I just like didn't. I couldn't do it. I don't know why. It just wasn't fun for me anymore. And it's like, what's the point if it's not fun? I don't know. But I mean, I do admire people who can work with structure in that way.
Yeah.
I physically can't do it. I don't know why. That's something for me to explore. But I do admire when people can do, especially when they do it so well. They're like, oh, this is like a sonnet, and they read it, and I'm like, I didn't even notice, you know? Like, I actually
wrote it in like 2 minutes, and you're like, what?
Yeah, right. Oh, I love in like, you know, craft or workshops or lectures or whatever they're called, where, you know, there's like a writing exercise, and then like everyone reads it out loud after. Yeah. And there's some people that I'm like, you did not write that 2 minutes ago. Like, what the hell? Like, that sounded like something you like published after an editor ran their pen over
like
it.
Andre.
Like, yep,
for example.
One of those people. Yep. I think who else? Violet.
Yep, Violet.
Yeah. Where I'm just like, what the?
Andre Hoylett, by the way, for people who are listening, and Violet Mitchell, who just had a book come out, and Andre just published some poems on Cultural Weekly, which is Chu On Choi's really cool publication for folks out there. Sorry.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that someone's gonna watch this. But I feel like we have to add footnotes. Who else did we mention? Khadijah Queen just came out with a book.
Khadijah Queen, who's a fucking badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, her new book. Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right? Anodyne.
She is the GOAT.
The GOAT. Who else did we mention? Sinjin, who
Sinjin
you'll have on soon, and we'll have his website for you. Did we mention anyone else?
Michael.
Mike, my boyfriend, or
yeah, I think so. Yeah, Michael.
Oh yeah, Michael Hetzler. He's in a band, Deep Waters. What else? Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, we're running short on time, but yes, I want to talk about all the things. Because like this is the cheese right here. Like we you know, we're all working on our own most of the time, and you know, running around doing whatever we do, and it's really cool to like get together and talk shop, you know.
Yeah, it is fun because then a lot of times you're just like doing these things and you don't think about it while you're doing it, and then when you think about it afterwards, you're like, oh, like there's the meaning in this. Like, you don't stop to find it sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
um, I guess do you happen to have a poem that you might be willing to share and read?
Oh, a poem. Okay.
Or even just read, because it might be weird to have it on YouTube. So just keep in mind if
Oh yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
yeah.
Because I probably would have read something and been like, oh shit, I shouldn't have read that. I'm turning my computer on.
Okay.
But is there anything you want to talk about in the meantime to fill
In
the
the
silence?
meantime, your Spotify poetry, you're like
Oh yeah.
actually, yeah.
Um, so we're trying to put, so on Instagram we've been doing these like little videos where my boyfriend will play bass, or there was one point where the lead singer of his band, Aaron Jones,
Mm-hmm.
I just hit the mirror, did like humming over it, where I like read a poem and then she like hummed over it, and then Mike played bass, and sometimes we have like ambient noises, like there's this guy walking down the street that always rings a bell. I don't know what he's selling, like ice cream or corn or something. So I recorded that because like every day I would hear it, and then I put that in one of them. There were crickets on this walk that we were doing, so I recorded the crickets, and we just add them to the poetry.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're gonna try to put some of that stuff on Spotify soon, and yeah, that's just another element of, because I think a lot of people read poetry on a page,
Right.
and they don't actually hear it the way that, you know, it's intended as the writer did. So it's like
Right.
pretty interesting to like, sorry, I'm like doing this and talking at the same time.
I get it.
Not very good at doing two things at once. It's pretty interesting to have it heard for audio.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear what you think about audiobooks, because
Oh, I
I
love
know a lot of
audiobooks.
people. Do you listen to audiobooks?
I do. I mean, I ride the bus a lot. I haven't driven in 20 years, so like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously I haven't been on the bus a whole lot during COVID times.
Mm-hmm.
But like gardening, doing the dishes, cleaning the house, long walks, bus rides, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And now sometimes even just laying, just listening, I'll listen to audiobooks. And it helps me burn through a lot of stuff that I feel like I should be reading, like some novels and things like that, things that I don't really want to buy because you probably just read them once anyway.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
yeah, so it helps me do that, and I have a lot of anxiety about using as much of my time as possible, which I'm still not doing. But it helps me to do that. And I really like audiobooks a lot. You're not going to get the same experience with an audiobook as you would reading the
Mm-hmm.
words, because there are some things I've read, audiobook read, that I was like, I really want to know what that looks like on the page. Like, I'm finishing up Peter Heller's book Dog Stars, for example, and he has these sections in his book that have a lot of pauses, very, very short sentences, especially when kind of the main character is kind of in these sometimes high pitched, but definitely out in the wilderness kinds of things. I really need to see what that looks like on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And the person reading it is putting those pauses in and stuff because I think it's punctuated, and there's lots of spaces between. So I actually listen to it really fast. But I need to see what that looks like. So like stuff like that comes up, and there are certain things that are very difficult to read on audiobook. Like it took me almost a year to finish Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed on an audiobook. And I'm still working through some, what is it, like The Sixth Extinction, and there's another book like that. So I listen to like a lot of self-help stuff and things like that. Those are easy. Those are easy audiobook reads.
Mm-hmm.
But some are a little more heady and take a lot more time. But yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm like not a very good auditory person.
Mm-hmm.
I like zone out after like a paragraph. Like
Yeah.
it's like pretty bad. Like when people read like fiction out loud, I'll usually like zone out, even if it's like the best fiction in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will just zone out after like a period, and I'll be mad at myself. I'll be like, why didn't you focus? Like pay attention, pay attention. But I just can't. Like I'm not an auditory.
I get it. I could admit something right now, but I'm not going to
Okay.
incriminate myself. I mean,
I'm
I've
just going
incriminated
ahead and
myself.
doing it.
I'm just like,
I'm burning my bridges. I don't care. But
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I have a hard time with readings, with most readings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, and part of it is, I think, is because of ADHD or whatever is going on in my brain.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, a lot of people with readings, like sometimes if you see me mouthing words back, I'm really trying to focus in on the structure of what that person is saying, and like trying to like try to find a way to grasp it, because I think I'm more of a tactile kind of person anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone's just reading their stuff to me and asking for feedback, ooh, that's hard. But if I
Oh
can
yeah,
sit
that's
with
so
it,
hard. Yeah.
yeah, if I can sit with it for a day or two, then I can actually engage. So
Mm-hmm.
readings actually are pretty hard for me. Um,
Yeah.
and we're doing them all the time, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I do tend to like poetry readings more.
Yeah,
Um, just because it's kind of written in a way where it kind of cuts out most of the fat, where you could just like focus on every word. Whereas
right.
like with fiction, I just like the ands and the does and the blah. It's just like I don't know. I get, and now I'm about to read a poem that has all of those things that I just said that I struggle
Yeah,
with.
read this read this poem, and we're gonna I'm like not gonna zone out.
It's pretty short. I have like a really hard time like writing anything that's longer than a page,
Yeah.
which is like hard for like novels and stuff. Like I've never actually I finished a novel once, but I don't know what the hell happened to that. But it wasn't really finished. It was finished for me, which means that I couldn't think about it anymore. But it wasn't actually finished. But so I'll read this poem.
Okay.
It's called Laugh Hold. Oh, it's from one of the writing exercises we did that Andre.
Oh, the two words?
It was like emotions or
Okay.
something. Um, we like read an
Oh,
article.
where we made up a word? Is it the make up the word or for an emotion?
Uh, I think that was part of the prompt, but I maybe I wasn't listening to the whole prompt or something. Um, but I remember there was a list of emotions on like this article, and I guess maybe I thought we were supposed to pick one. I didn't know we were supposed to make one up,
I mean,
but
poetic license, dude.
yeah, let's go with that. So it's supposed to be about like um laughing so hard that you like fall into a laughing hole or whatever. I don't know. That's probably wrong too. That was just my interpretation of it. But laugh hold. Oh, there's the bell I was talking about. Can you hear it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the guy that walks by every day selling
that's
content.
really cool.
Oh, now he's gonna be in my phone. Laugh hold. You call me a giggling cloud as I lose myself to thoughts, swirling and distorting and fogging into thin air, no longer visible, but the impression is left. I tell you, I need you to help me learn this language, the language of my father and Jiddo and Siti. I tell you, I can't do it alone. You pick up the Arabic book and start reading it backwards, and I laugh and say, other way, and now you're reading it upside down, and I can't roll my R's, so you pry open my mouth to examine what's wrong, where the language is lost, and rub my throat, say here. Point to my tongue, say there. No, maybe it's the roof. I laugh and make hissing noises, and you call me a monster, and we slink hopelessly to bed.
Oh, thank you for reading that.
Thank you for letting me.
Oh, yeah, your work. I love your work. And I will always amplify it as much as possible. Just let me know. So, well, how can people like get in contact with you and support your work and support
Um,
you supporting other people even.
uh, support me supporting other people.
Well,
Uh,
first you got to give from an overflowing cup. That's the lesson I've been getting. I'm going to pass that on.
okay. I don't know. Like I don't have. I'd say for me, just like it would be interesting to do some readings. Like I don't really care too much about people like buying my work or anything, but more just like participating within the community, whether that's the community in Denver or LA or anywhere, honestly. Um, but you know, in terms of buying, like I don't really care about that right now. But and then supporting other people. Uh, a social underground in our Instagram story is where I always post, whatever's going on within the community, whether it's someone just, published a poem in a journal, or a book just came out, or they're doing a reading, or, I just like kind of just share all that information constantly as I see it. I wake up in the morning, I check Instagram, see what everyone's doing, and then I share it. And yeah, I think, did that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to close this up. Thank you so much
Okay.
for talking with me today.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I'm going to do this.